everybody. Thank you so much to everybody who is tuning in. Really excited to have this call. Last time we had Ben on last week. We were speaking to more liquidity fragmentation. You kind of threw out there at the end that there was a collaboration in the works and have since made, the official announcement from Governor. So we're going to be kind of digging into this a little bit, discussing what this actually entails, along with your newest announcement that I had seen maybe just a few hours ago. Before we dig into all of that, though, I would love to just have you guys introduce yourselves. Anybody who may not have tuned into, one of our calls previously, specifically last week when we had you on. Ben, would you mind just introducing yourself to our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me back. I love you guys so much, and I'm so excited to do this together. It's amazing. It's something that's been in my head for a good while. So to have it realized into reality is amazing. Super quick intro on me. I'm a quantum physics super geek that used to do lots of coding in various different languages, moved into TradFi, built exchanges, worked with regulators, did a lot of work in the corporate governance space and the compliance space, helping people kind of navigate various different TradFi regulations. Got into crypto in 2013 when I rabbit holed, tried to move the needle with my own firm, which in the TradFi space was really hard. So in 2017, I exited, joined one of the first projects being built on Ethereum in London, and then just didn't really ever come back out of crypto. Followed that on by building an MPC-based platform, also built a platform with some colleagues called Attestant, which is the world's largest non-custodial ETH2 staker, and now building Governor. And we'll get into what Governor is going to be kind of going forwards, but it's the truest imagination of DeFi that I can possibly hold in my head at this particular point in time. And we're gonna need the Bancor team to kind of execute on that and make it pure.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. It's funny, once you get into crypto, it's hard to, how do you actually get out?
You never get out.
It's a permanent move. It's one way.
It really kind of is. It could be like a passion project or something of the sort, but it's like once you start going down that rabbit hole, it's really hard to work your way back out. And honestly, there might be few who might, but I don't know if I've met anybody yet who has gone down the rabbit hole and gotten into crypto and really just been like, that's it, I'm out. I want nothing to do with it anymore.
Gone on to AI and extended out into kind of LMMs and other different things. And I think that's another new chapter in terms of where we're going in this space. Mm-hmm. But the crypto stuff just becomes a pillar of what you're doing.
It really does. Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for a wonderful intro. We'll definitely get more into Governor and kind of the role that Bancor is going to be playing in this. Mark, may I pass it over to you, sir? Would you mind introducing yourself for us?
Yes, certainly. So my name is Mark Richardson. I used to be an organic synthetic chemist. During the pandemic, I started getting interested, or I should say more interested in cryptocurrency and DeFi in particular. It was during the pandemic that I really started to learn about Ethereum and smart contracts. In January of 2021, I began my first full-time contracted position for Bancor, and in October of 2022, I took over leadership of the project.
Thank you very much, Mark. Glenn, may I pass it to you, please?
Yes. Can you hear me good on your end?
Loud and clear.
Perfect. So I am with Bancor on the BizDev side. I've been with the community since roughly 2020, doing stuff for the Bancor DAO and contributing in governance. Joined officially in early 2022. And a little bit about me. Prior to that, I was working out of a hedge fund in NYC for about 6 years, computer science major, and I was doing system stuff. So think about Red Hat Linux, storage, networking, these type of things. Made the switch over to DeFi blockchain Web3 and never looked back. So it's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Glenn. Ben, I'm going to pass it over to you. What did you say that this governor is the truest form of DeFi that you can really envision? Is that what you said? I'm paraphrasing,
I mean,
right? But
pretty
I
powerful,
want
right?
you to, yeah. I mean, it's a bold statement, you know. Maybe just kind of build on that a little bit. In what sense specifically? Tell us more. Like, tell us what governor is actually doing and why you feel so strongly about that, to where you're making this truest form of DeFi, you know, statement.
Yeah, I mean, so everybody's got a story about how they've rabbit holed, about how they kind of came into the space. Most people start with, well, most people that kind of are in the DeFi space start with Bitcoin in terms of that position. There's another kind of narrative that starts with NFTs and meme coins and kind of backs into DeFi. But yeah, I mean, personally for me, it was back in 2013. And, you know, when I read the white paper, having had that kind of technical background and that physics background that I've got, it was a kind of, you know, all sorts of 4-letter words kind of come into your mind when you kind of try and explain it. It's just like, my God, this thing that is being described here in 8 pages is the world's first digitally scarce asset. And, you know, in the financial space in TradFi, I'm just like, this is going to change everything. It's like, how is this going to progress? You know, if we can start extending what we've got here into tokenized assets, other different types of things. And that was before Ethereum kind of really kind of kicked off and positioned itself. So there was a whole kind of narrative where colored coins was going to be something, and they were looking to try and put some kind of more functionality and utility into the Bitcoin space. But then obviously Ethereum came along with like Turing complete smart contracts on a blockchain, and what was then proposed to be the world computer. And it was just like, okay, wow, this is where it's going to be at. This is the next level kind of position. But the narrative keeps changing, and, you know, we keep moving forwards on and upwards and doing different things. So we've now got layer 2s, we've now got layer 3s. So I'm, throughout my career in crypto, sitting there just watching all these chains kind of proliferate. And effectively, we've got like a Cambrian explosion of chains now. Some of these chains are grouped together with IBC, some are grouped together with, you know, Polkadot, some in the EVM space are going to be grouped together with things like the AG layer or shared sequencing, or, you know, different things that are coming together to try and fix composability. There's 2 problems that I see with that. One is Bitcoin is completely isolated from all of those different solutions today, which is a big problem because it's a massive portion of our liquidity. It's a massive portion of our market cap as a whole. 2, we've got this new kind of ecosystem that's coming through in the Bitcoin ordinal space. And so there's a whole narrative about Bitcoin Renaissance and, you know, Bitcoin DeFi, which, you know, personally I prefer to call BitFi, because then we've got BitFi and DeFi, and, you know, we can start then progressing that narrative kind of forwards on. But really, I saw all these chains proliferate, and they became islands of liquidity. You know, back to the previous conversation we had last week or 2 weeks ago, where we're talking about this fragmentation. And it's like the challenge of doing something, if you're operating on Arbitrum and you've got assets on Polygon, or, you know, you've made some gains via trading or by building something or by selling something on Polygon, and you've got lots of USDC, or you've got lots of Matic, or you've got something, and then you see the next opportunity on Solana, or you see the next opportunity on Avalanche, or, you know, even ordinals. And the only way to get there is to go back to a centralized exchange like Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, swap in that centralized exchange, and then get those assets, and then come back and then go off and do something else. And so thinking about this, it's about how do you connect up all these different pools of liquidity and transactions and do it in a kind of Turing complete composable way that allows you to do things smart. And the way you do it is by thinking backwards, and you work backwards into the common denominator, first principles thinking. And all of these blockchains have at their first principle some kind of curve, elliptic curve position, and that's how we do the cross-chain position. So with Governor, we enable a smart contract to control and generate messages that it can broadcast to other different chains. So your smart contract can act instead of you sitting there typing various different exchanges, connecting to various different dApps. And you can program a smart contract to actually composably instigate DeFi transactions, collateral positions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everything that you can do on that particular destination chain, but you can do it from a smart contract.
Mark, I saw you shaking your head when he was talking about the curves. I didn't know if you wanted to add something there before I ask my next question.
No, it's just it's always been interesting to me that like the fundamentals of blockchain have always been, trust, don't verify. Trust and verify. Verify, don't trust. Excuse my my brain hiccuping for a second there. It's very warm here. But if I was to try and articulate it in a different way, it's that everyone should understand the technology that they're using, or put it in another way, is that everyone is responsible for their own safety on blockchains. And that, it is because everyone takes a personal responsibility for these things that, you can credibly make the case that we don't need government intervention in these things. It doesn't need someone to govern it, because the only things that can happen are things that are, by way of consent of the person who is doing them. And at the most fundamental level of that is, do you even understand how these things are encrypted? Like, where does that crypto component come from? And it's remarkable how few people know about the elliptic curves that Ethereum and Bitcoin are using. They use the same elliptic curve, by the way, and it's very different from it's a different elliptic curve from the one that NIST has recommended that people use, and people suspect it's because there might actually be a backdoor into the elliptic curve that NIST has prescribed everyone to use, and this may be how the NSA got into everyone's emails and things like that. But in any case, I was just nodding my head because, it is, it's true that it is there, I think, on every blockchain. And I think that every blockchain is using the same elliptic curve. And it's just surprising to me that not more people in the blockchain culture have actually taken the step of understanding how that encryption decryption process works and, which elliptic curve they're using. Or even, are the general lack of awareness that, ECC encryption is not provably secure. We have, the reason ECC is used instead of RSA is that it is a lot more lightweight. And so, you can process, stuff faster and with less memory. Compared to like RSA encryption methods, but they're both, derivatives of the same public-private key sharing system. But yeah, it's just, it's so rarely that I hear the ECC even referred to in these conversations that it just involuntarily caused me to react, I suppose.
Well, for somebody who's not super technical, right? And I'm speaking for myself here. Liquidity fragmentation, when we are speaking about Governor, this is something that has been a topic of discussion. This is something that has been looked at through and through, or, I shouldn't say few, but I should say that Governor's not the only one looking to offer a solution for this, right? What is it is the way that your mechanism is working? Is it the messaging? Like, what is it that's actually setting you aside from others that are working on a solution to this as well? What is that distinction?
So there are a couple of different things that we kind of get compared to, and I think it's dependent on where the viewer is actually, or the audience is actually sitting. So if we're talking to somebody in the Bitcoin space, they start comparing us to Babylon, to Bob, Build on Bitcoin, to Portal to Bitcoin, etc., etc., etc. Because we enable BitFi to transact from any chain, which makes every chain that's currently out there a potential Stacks competitor or Babylon competitor, which is huge. If you start talking to somebody from the Ethereum space or the Solana space, they go, wait, okay, well, you're like layer 0, you're like Wormhole or CCIP or something like that. And, we are very similar. Axelar is probably the closest position that we get compared to in terms of the framework. We are very similar in terms of Governor is a general message passing protocol in that respect. It's not a blockchain per se. The Governor nodes are like watcher nodes, like relayer position, kind of managing and monitoring state, but it's not looking for kind of blockchain type consensus in that respect, which means it can operate much faster. It means it can operate independently of a consensus mechanism per se. You can have very broad rules in terms of what you're looking for in terms of consensus. If you only just wanted to trust and verify against one node, that was your own node, you could do that. If you want to use the rest of the ecosystem Governor nodes, you could use that as well. But really, I would say that for all those other protocols, if you read the white paper and you read it properly, it gets down to a position where there's a black box, and I like to say it just says, trust me, bro, on top of this black box. The Chainlink guys would say, oh, it's trust minimization, right? And actually what you want is you just want complete permissionless interaction. So the only way to stop a Governor message is actually to turn all the various different networks off, because there's no one single counterparty that at any point is going to be able to intercept the broadcast of that message. So when your DApp builds and broadcasts that message from Ethereum to Solana, that's going to happen. If the network's running, that's going to happen, which is a very different situation from all of the other positions like that, where arguably there's something in there that could be manipulated and kind of intervened by some kind of other central party.
Now, you guys are live in testing. What is the status at the moment? And then I want to turn it over to Mark and Glenn, or maybe you're the best person to answer this. I'm curious about how Bancor comes into the picture here. But are you guys live at the moment, or are you kind of running?
We're on the cusp, right? So we've got we're building. We've got various different things kind of coming out. We've got something launching on Monday. If the engineering team are watching, they're probably like, don't say dates, Ben.
I get that all the time. I mentioned that on the last call. I know better than to ask.
Take
Mark.
it from me, Ben. Don't ever publicly state a date. No release dates in public calls.
Absolutely. But I hate saying soon. This whole space is all when and soon, but we're really close. We're really close to kind of having something out there that people can clear.
So not just soon, but very soon.
Exactly. We'll go straight to mainnet in terms of an alpha mainnet, which is going to be great because how many people have got testnet assets? Very few. And what we've built is we've just built a really simple MVP on top of the Governor protocol. And that MVP is called Just Pay. And it basically lets you mint an NFT and just pay with any asset that you've got on your wallet. So, if you want to mint an NFT on one particular chain and be part of the questing activity to do that, then if you've got lazy assets on Polygon, you can use that. If you've got lazy assets on Base, you can use that. And we'll start
That's what
just
was
really
my next
slowly
question.
kind of extending. Go on.
Sorry, I think there was a delay. I didn't mean to cut you off. That was super rude. It was unintentional.
No, it's
please
cool.
finish your thought.
So yeah, we are close to getting something out there in terms of that. I would say that if I just kind of go on a little bit and say why do we need Bancor in terms of what we're going to be doing, it's really kind of fundamental in terms of the way that the protocol is designed. So the fee structure, the governor protocol is a love child between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Maker. Bitcoin has got 21 million tokens. Governor has 20 million tokens. Ethereum has fees that are given through yield through staking and deflationary fees, heavily skewed towards staking assets, less so on deflation. Governor flips that round. And then Maker, in terms of the MKR token is the governance token that's controlling various different positions and frameworks that is kind of using to drive and shape the protocol. And Governor is going to take that thesis through to enable a number of different things that the DAO can vote against to make sure that they can shape the future of what is being achieved and how things are engaging with community. And that's a very difficult thing to talk about because obviously it's all in the future and it's very organic.
Right. So Mark or Glenn, let's talk, it's not Carbon DeFi that you're actually using, like where Bancor comes into play.
Is it?
Both.
It's Carbon DeFi and it's the Vortex.
Okay. So let's talk about the Vortex for a minute. Mark and Glenn, maybe I'll pass it over to you guys because the majority of the integrations and collaborations that we've seen so far, or deployments, things of that sort, right? Up until this point, it's really been Carbon DeFi. It's been the Art Fast Lane. This is the first outside of probably Bancor governance that we've really spoken to the Vortex in quite some time. So maybe you can give a little bit of background on that and how you really kind of see this like being an advantage or serving a specific purpose for Governor.
Yeah, sure. The Vortex is like an oldish product, and it's gone through like several different iterations of itself. So it began way back in 2020 when the Bancor community was asking for a way to basically generate like a type of protocol revenue system. And this is like well documented in the discourse documents from around that time. And there was a lot of argument about how to do it. There was different names for these things at the time, by the way. It was called like an admin fee, and some people called it like protocol revenue. Other protocols called it like protocol owned liquidity, and there was a lot of like vague ways to allude to what is essentially the same concept. But today, now that like DeFi has matured a little bit and some of the projects that are getting established are like proper businesses, there are some challenges that these businesses face that really do borrow from or can benefit from the kinds of challenges that we've been trying to address over the last 4 years. So with Bancor's original product, it was relatively easy because you could assume that no matter which token the protocol is collecting as kind of this admin or protocol fee, that it would be necessarily paired with the BNT token. And so there was always a source of liquidity for it. You didn't need a price oracle necessarily because there's you've already got price discovery on its own pool, and so on and so forth. And so the protocol is very, very capable of just swapping the tokens that it collects back into BNT and destroying that BNT. And this was, that process of doing that was referred to as the Bancor Vortex. There were a couple of other abstraction layers on top of that that would allow the protocol at that time to burn BNT more efficiently. But that's, very secondary to the the vortex as it exists today. So basically, wanting to continue with this idea of protocol revenue, when Carbon DeFi was developed, we knew that we would be collecting, fees in all kinds of tokens. Like it's completely permissionless, so you can end up with hundreds or thousands of tokens in there, and different kinds of tokens, and many of them are going to be quite bespoke. Like you don't really know whether or not there's, even if you wanted to have an Oracle, for example, price implementation to decide how to consolidate these tokens into something. You can't make the assumption that there's going to be a price for it. A lot of the time people forget that, even with, some of the most prolific Oracle providers in the industry, like Chainlink, like Pith, like Band, they don't offer like any token you can imagine. There is a list of tokens that they support, and if your token isn't on that list, then your smart contract won't work if it uses that as a dependency. And so it's very difficult to rely on these kinds of third-party dependencies if you don't know ahead of time what tokens you're going to be collecting protocol revenue in. And so what we decided to do was to basically pivot towards the active systems that Bancor had previously developed. So this is the off-chain Fastlane protocol that's clever enough to be able to listen to on-chain activity and know the price of things, and not know the price of things because an oracle told it, but because it can see where there's a liquidity source and calculate what price it's going to get for stuff. And so the new Vortex doesn't have the assumption that there is an active liquidity source for something, and it doesn't need to know where those liquidity sources are. All it needs to do is basically offer a price for the tokens that it has. And this is going to, what it does is it bids down the price over time. So for example, if it's collected something, let's just call it token X, it will say, okay, here's my X token, and I'm going to charge you, 1 million ETH for this X token. And if there are no buyers, it will say, okay, fine. In the next block, I'm going to reduce my price by 0.1%. And if no one takes that price, I'm going to reduce my price again by another 0.1%, and so on and so forth.
And
so
you can program that.
This is adjustable. Yeah, these are adjustable parameters. So the contracts are very...
You can automate this sort of action being taken.
Yeah, exactly. And you can program it in such a way that it's even like makes more heuristic sense. So instead of talking about blocks and a geometric sequence that way, instead you can say, well, let's let the price halve itself like once a day or twice a day, and so we can talk about half-lives instead, which is a little bit more intuitive. But yeah, in general, it will basically just keep bidding the price down. Now that's all it does, is it's constantly advertising a price. And the old and bad assumption was that, well, there's going to be a lot of arbitrageurs who are like paying attention to that price. And so when the price is in the money, you expect someone to close it out. But as any lending protocol will tell you, you can't make that assumption. Sometimes there's just no one paying attention because your protocol hasn't, offered anything in a little while. And so people have, lost interest in it or switched off their bot, and they don't know that it's working or not working. And so we also bring that second infrastructure that will check where there's, where the liquidity sources are, and become an active participant in this, what is effectively a Dutch auction. And so as it becomes close to the money, the ARB Fastlane will pick it up and then convert it into whatever token the project has decided on. Obviously, in Bancor's case, this consolidates everything into ETH and then into BNT for destruction. But as a licensed, productized, thing, you can consolidate it into whatever you want. Things like USDC, for example, so that you can pay, developer overheads, or so you can pay service providers and that kind of thing. So it's a way to automatically consolidate whatever protocol revenue you have in whatever tokens it's in, and get it all into something that is like more useful than having all of these dusty tokens around the place.
Well, okay, so let me just clarify a minute then. Can you take all of these different tokens and create one sort of Dutch auction? It's all multiple Dutch auctions for each individual token.
Each token type is auctioned off individually. That's necessary because they're not going to be
same prices, things of that sort.
You're not gonna be able to clear them all at the same price. Right. And there's also no way to know like what is a reasonable price because like I said, the contract doesn't understand the token that it has. So it starts at an arbitrarily high price. But because you're doing, because you're halving the price like twice a day or 3 times a day or something, you can tune how long it takes on average for that, auction to end. So for like very valuable tokens like ETH, those auctions might conclude a little bit sooner, or for Bitcoin, they conclude relatively quickly. But for things like, like some random, like gas token on a bespoke blockchain, it might take a little while because it takes longer and longer to find those lower prices. But because it's a flat line in logarithmic space, it means that you can find the price of anything, even though the contract doesn't know anything about those prices. It discovers the price itself every time.
It's really nice being able to automate that sort of process and allowing the developers at Governor to be able to just focus on other things like building out Governor versus, I'm going to take these fees and okay, no, nothing's sold at this point, or I'm going to sell this at this price and have to deal with this sort of slippage or something of that sort, right? Like you can just automate this and just pretty much walk away is what it sounds like. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, it's also really helpful that you don't need to build in any like bad assumptions. Like I said, like Oracle price feeds and things, like they're great, but they're also, like I said, not like general. But then people will say, okay, we're not going to do that, but we will build in some other dependency. Like we will assume that this particular DEX is like always going to be here, only to find out like in a year from now or something that DEX is either not active anymore, or like most of the liquidity is moved to another DEX. And now that smart contract is now like basically needs to be deprecated because it assumed that this other source of liquidity was always going to be there. Whereas in this case, it's agnostic to whatever the liquidity is. Whatever is the best source of liquidity at the time that you need it on that chain will be the one that gets used, even if that specific DEX isn't here next year. Like it will move on to that better source of liquidity and so on and so forth. It's a much more adaptable system than having something that's embedded in concrete with assumptions about what that blockchain is going to look like in the future.
So Ben, is this going to be on Ethereum then? Like
we're going to use the Bancor Vortex wherever possible. Like you said, the whole premise of DeFi is about money Legos, about being able to build composable different stacks, etc., through various different positions. The Governor protocol at this particular moment in time is looking like the token will be launching on mainnet, because that's where you put highly valuable tokens, and that's where kind of value can easily kind of accrue back to various different positions. We'll be using the Carbon DeFi framework on mainnet for various different liquidity pools.
That's what I was going to ask you about next. I saw the announcement. For anybody who missed the announcement this morning, Governor put out do we still call them tweets? I still call them a tweet. It's still Twitter in my head. It's X, I know. Okay, put out a post. You put out an announcement this morning on X that you were using Carbon DeFi as your primary liquidity source. So that'll be the Ethereum deployment. Correct. Right. So a couple different ways that you're actually using a few of Bancor's. It sounds like the ARB Fastlane along with the Vortex, and then Carbon DeFi for your liquidity.
Yeah, I mean,
why Carbon DeFi for your liquidity?
Well, so why Carbon DeFi? Because of the fact that we've kind of, and we spoke about this kind of on the previous position, the ability to have those two curves, the buy curve and the sell curve, and the ability to make a spread and have like a central limit order book type experience within a decentralized experience. And the fact that the benefits of being immune to MEV and sandwich attacks is huge. So, the ability to concentrate liquidity is huge. And the fact that, you can actually kind of treat it in very similar way to the central limit order books that you see on exchanges today means that more people need to understand why carbon is so impactful for the market. And even people that I talk to that are like true DeFi degens, they still haven't taken the time to build a carbon strategy or look at various different things. So one of the things that we're going to do with our community is ask them to go and set up a strategy, do some learning about how we're going to use these DeFi tools to actually build a DeFi, the truest DeFi protocol that is going to exist in this.
Well, and how they can benefit from them too, right? Glenn, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening to the conversation that's ongoing. It's very interesting, actually.
Yeah. Go ahead. No. Go ahead. You want to add something, and then I have a question for you as well.
Ben, just wanted to add a little bit about the vortex. It's something that the Bancor DAO has been dogfooding internally for a while now, like Mark said earlier.
Did you say dogfooding?
Dogfooding, meaning eating our own, using our own, I guess, products, right? So
okay.
It's always good, right, to do this generally, right? But something that the Bancor DAO has been using for quite a while, like Mark said, earlier this year, we had like a surplus of, I want to say it was like 1,800 ETH. So all of that was converted to BNT successfully using the Vortex, right? And the other thing that I want to clarify is also the R Fastlane is a taker of the Vortex, but also anyone else can actually take these tokens are being put through sort of like this Dutch auction, right? And you can essentially take them as well, right? So if you're interested in doing that, we do have documents, docs.carbondefi.xyz. You can actually look at the Vortex there and figure out the functions that are available for you to interact with it, right? So if you're interested in potentially participating as a taker, you can also do that, right? So we've seen this a couple of times where, people have seen, okay, this is like a token I really want. It's a good deal for me. I'm just going to take them at this point in time because I think this is a good price, right? Because the price is decaying over time, right? Obviously, a lot of the times, the tokens get taken and then they get swapped for another, the destination token that's being asked for using an on-chain liquidity source. But sometimes there might be people that are interested in just having these tokens, right? You might be like a long-term holder. So there's definitely an opportunity for you to do so. So, just correct.
No, it's a good point that although, the ARB Fastlane is right there alongside the Vortex, it's not there as the only taker, right? Your tokens, right? Like what you're creating, what you're bringing to the market and offering the market isn't just for the ARB Fastlane exclusively. This is more of a Bancor product to complement Carbon DeFi and the ARB and the Vortex, from what it sounds like. Glenn, my other question that I wanted to ask you was when Ben was talking about Carbon DeFi, he said, the ability to have these concentrated positions, right? But we know that you can go to a concentrated liquidity AMM, that Carbon DeFi isn't the only sort of concentrated liquidity protocol out there. What makes it different from concentrated liquidity AMMs, Carbon DeFi?
Oh, yeah. So I would say if you're familiar with other concentrated liquidity protocols, you can definitely use Carbon's DeFi, I would say, flavor of concentrated liquidity, right? There's a few things that I would say just that are a little bit or that are better on Carbon than others. One of those being around the fee tiers, right? We have no concept of like preset fee tiers. So you can have the fee or AKA spread.
That's what Ben was saying with the spread, having the spread there.
So the spread, it's up to you as to like what you want to decide that to be, right? If you're trading tokens that are maybe similar to each other, you might want to have like a low spread, low fee. If you're trading something that's a little bit more volatile, right, you might want to have a higher spread or fee, right? Totally up to you as to what that is. Right. The other thing that we do on Carbon when it comes to concentrated liquidity that's different than others is there's no need to auto compound your fees because they typically end up collecting in a separate bucket or separate area, right? And then you have to go and do this manually. On mainnet Ethereum, this could be quite expensive depending on gas fees, right? But
And
on
it's
Carbon,
just tedious. Even if
It
it's
is.
not, expensive on Ethereum, it's just tedious. Like, who wants to do that? You want to be
It's a
able to
time
just
sink,
create
for
your
sure.
position, right? And just be like, okay, great. Like, it's accumulating,
Right. So you can just have the protocol do this for you. So as the trading as trading is happening against your strategy, those fees or that spread is accumulating directly back into your position, right? So these are, like, I guess, some of the things that are good about concentrated liquidity on Carbon, but also you can do like other more advanced, I would say, or other types of strategies as well, right?
That's
So
the sort of like a limit order book, or like the order book style that Ben had referred to. Right.
Yeah,
These sorts
so
of features is what you're talking about now.
for sure, like you can do limit orders, range orders, which are a little bit more, I would say, a little bit more flexible in the sense
That's sort of
that
scaling in.
yeah, scaling in, scaling out helps you if you might not have, like, for example, cannot predict the exact top or bottom, right? This gives you some room for error, some flexibility. You can start buying at a certain price point, end up or stop buying at another price point, right? Or stop selling at a price point, start selling at one price point, etc. Right? So
Right.
you can do all these things with range orders, and then you can also combine different orders together to have some sort of like a buy low, sell high strategy, right?
So it sounds like much more flexibility in what is your token, so we can keep an eye out for it, Ben? Is it GVNR?
The token will be called Governor as well. So
It will be,
GVNR.
right. Wanted to confirm. So it sounds like the community or token holders will have much more flexibility in the sorts of, when they're going to be able to buy and sell and create these sorts of what I know Carbon DeFi refers to as strategies, right? So that's a nice advantage for them. We're at maybe like 10, 15 minutes. So before I keep asking questions, I want to know, is there anything specific? Ben, do you want to add anything to Governor, something that you really want to highlight? I know we're getting to that very soon point. And this is like the ideal time for everybody to really kind of get their eyes, not just their eyes on you, but really understand what it is. And if we missed anything, I want to give you the opportunity to speak on that. Glenn, thank you, by the way. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
So when we're describing kind of what Governor can do for various different chains, we call it the bridge killer. And typically when a new chain launches, they launch a bridge to either ETH layer 1 or Solana, to whichever kind of tribe they want to kind of connect to. I would say the next thing that we're going to get to is people launch a chain and then they deploy the Governor contract to their chain, and it allows them to access all liquidity across all chains. So
is it all chains?
Well, it's all chains that the curves of support. Yeah, absolutely. And the implementation is rolling out top 7 chains in EVM, then Bitcoin, and then we'll explore kind of what's next in terms of that position. But the aspiration is to build the protocol so that any chain can come along and their community can build their own contract and connect in various different ways. And that will be managed through the economics of the Governor nodes and the positions. But yeah, it's interactivity that is transaction driven. And so we say kind of don't bridge govern to kind of people that kind of can come in and kind of collaborate in this space. And when they start looking at putting Governor in on their chain, they're going to want to have the vortex on that chain as well, because otherwise you end up accumulating fees in the gas chain of that token, and that the protocol will need to extract that value back into some kind of other value that can be moved back into the protocol. And without the vortex, the only option is to just kind of market dump continuously, which is, it's not great for the protocol in terms of getting maximum value out of our fees. And it's not great for the chain because you end up with these market capitulation moments where a protocol is constantly dumping gas tokens into the market. So the vortex is really important for both sides. One, for the protocol to get maximum value, and two, for the chain that it's deployed upon to actually say, we are really happy that the governance protocol's here because it's adding functionality and usability and utilization, but it's not impacting negatively the price of our total protocol.
So am I understanding this? Am I understanding you correctly then, that you said for Bitcoin and like the top 7, like the EVM chains, right? Is that what you said for like the initial?
For the initial launch, we've got a list of about 40 that we think we can get to easily.
Amazing. Wow. So you're not, it's not just like a launch, like you're not just going live, like you are going live.
Well, right? So we'll do top 7 first in terms of scaling, and then we'll build up from there. But like Mark said, it's like everything's based on the ECDSA curve and the EDDSA curves that can be kind of manipulated by the MPC. And then once you're there, you're off to the races. And, you know, all the other competitors that are in this space, because they're based on smart contracts taking off and smart contracts landing, and we're doing smart contract taking off, then MPC, broadcast. So your smart contract wallet is much more like your MetaMask or your Trust wallet or whatever it might be. It allows you to do Bitcoin, which there aren't very many things that you can do BitFi with yet.
I stopped bridging because it made me so nervous, you know? So I appreciate what do you say? Don't bridge, just govern.
Yeah,
right?
Don't bridge, govern. I mean, so we put a post out the other day, and you know, just picking on one particular bridge. We looked at L2B, said, okay, well, there's nearly $4 billion worth of value in the Arbitrum bridge. Looking at it, it's secured by a 9 of 12 Security Council wallet. At some point, that number is going to go up because all the assets in this space are going to go up, and it's going to be $40 billion.
Scary to think about.
At some point, $40 billion is worth trying to round up 12 people in a room, and you know,
scary. It's scary. Yeah. So will the vortex, and I know we're getting there, but will the vortex then, you guys correct me if I'm mistaken, be on these 7, 8 chains right from the get-go? It's not just one vortex deployment, or am I mistaken in saying that?
We'll be working together with Mark and the team to make sure that things are in place.
Yeah. Awesome. Mark, Glenn, do either of you guys want to add anything? You know, I know this is the first of the vortex that we're seeing. Do you expect to see more? Is this something that you want? You know, like you guys are pushing for? I know you're continuing to build out Carbon DeFi. Where is the Bancor focus at the moment?
I wouldn't say that licensing the vortex is necessarily our focus. At the moment, like we've got, you know, much. We're busy pursuing like other things. I think, you know, I was happy to make a very, you know, a very considered exception for Ben Whitby and what he's doing in Governor, because I'm excited to work with him and with the people that he's put together, and I like the product so much. But yeah, look, potentially
this was more of an exception. This isn't like you're taking your.
Yeah, look, if people are super interested, like I will. I'm always up for discussing licensing, and if the Bancor Vortex is something that you need to use, you know, if you're in that situation where you're collecting hundreds or thousands of you know, tokens that you don't even know what they are, and you're trying to figure out how to convert it into like a stable coin or something to pay developers or whatever, then, you know, feel free to talk to me. But it's not something that I'm like pushing at, you know, conferences. It's not something that I'm talking about every day or something like that. It's, you know, when people, you know, if people discuss it with me and it looks like it's something that we can do together, then I'm happy to go after it. But no, it's not something that I'm like actively searching in at the moment. I have other avenues that I need to finish exploring before I get deeper into Bancor's product stack. You know, at the moment, I think Carbon DeFi and the Upfast lane are the two predominant focuses, and then the Vortex, obviously, now that it's productized, is something that we can you know, we can pursue if we wanted to, but I think that our focus is best spent on the two main breadwinners for now.
It's interesting to hear that it was more of a considered exception for Ben and for Governor. So it says a lot. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys together are able to accomplish and the sorts of issues and obstacles that blockchains and because it's hard for blockchains too, right? They have these incentives. They want to get these, community and build the community. And then all of a sudden it's like they just take that and move on. And I'm not saying all of them, right? Move on to the next chain and everything else. So it's nice to see that if they kind of integrate with Governor, right, that maybe they can keep some of that base where they're at on that chain, and then kind of eliminating that risk for bridging. Glenn, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Pretty much, I think Mark covered most of it. I would say if you're interested in just talking about this use case for your project or protocol, there might be, yes, a large need for this in the market. Like, who knows, right? Certainly something we're willing to explore. And yeah, just reach out to us. I think it's something that we can take a look at as well. What I was going to say, another thing is someone is asking here, what is the secret code? I'm assuming this is to like the quest, if I'm not wrong.
This is for the Galaxy Quest.
Okay, good. Right. I'll let you guys answer that.
I didn't want to break the flow. I know somebody wanted to claim the Galaxy out. I know I'm probably going to claim my
That's
Galaxy
Glenn.
out.
Glenn is asking for the secret code so that he can claim the Galaxy out.
I think the secret code is don't bridge govern.
Is this the secret code?
Yeah, it's don't bridge govern. That's the secret phrase. Yeah.
Okay, is there just the letters, right? We're not adding any sort of emoji or anything like that, or are we?
I think the chain emoji's in there as well, because we need to be able to kind of like search it for on X as well.
Okay.
But we'll figure it out, right? What
if it's not, pay attention to Twitter and they'll put out an announcement.
the thing to kind of I would just want to kind of end on the fact that the Bancor team is such an amazing team in terms of where they've come from, where they are at the moment, and it's a massive honor to be kind of alongside these OGs in the space. I was fortunate enough to kind of get involved in Bancor, the very first kind of initiation in 2017 when we put some assets on there and built effectively a liquidity pool for one of the projects. And to see where things have come now, just in 8-9 years, is absolutely amazing in terms of what we can do from DeFi. And more people need to go off and explore exactly what this is, and build a strategy on Carbon and just understand how impactful that is compared to all the MEV stuff, that's all the AMM stuff and the MEV that you're impacted with in the other kind of V2 clones and forks that are out there. So, I'm really pleased to be able to kind of help drive some momentum to understanding of the space. And there's a lot of stuff that I think we can do together as we take these next stages into DeFi.
Thank you for the kind words, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. Well, I'm looking forward to all of the above. I'm looking forward to seeing what Governor is able to do. I'm looking forward to seeing what Bancor continues to build out, Carbon DeFi and these new users with Governor being able to see, how they can benefit from this. And then obviously what, you guys are able to do together. Definitely want to have you back, Ben. I know, we don't know when exactly you guys are going to be going live, but when you do, would love to have you back. Really, maybe we could do like a screen share, do a walkthrough and guide them on how they can actually accomplish this and what you guys are offering to them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that. That would be
awesome.
That would be really cool.
Amazing. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. Congratulations on the collaboration. Of course, thank you for joining me, and to all of our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. Any questions about Carbon DeFi, you can go to Carbon DeFi XYZ on Telegram or on Twitter X, Carbon DeFi XYZ as well. Ben, where is everybody going to go if they have questions about Governor or want to reach out to you guys?
So I would head to Telegram and go to Governor DAO. If you can't find us on Telegram, go to X. We're on Governor DAO there as well. Yeah, come make some noise. Tell us about why you're frustrated about DeFi.
There you go. We'll just start collaborating and brainstorming and building more solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. Well, you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much again. And we'll definitely speak with you soon. Don't forget to claim your Galaxy Oat. Here, I'm going to put it up here one more time. The secret code is Don't Bridge Govern. Thanks so much, guys. And we'll all connect soon for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.